On June 10th, he ruled that Justin Baldoni cannot sue Blake Lively after dismissing the New York Times one.
How did Justin take the news, Brian? How's he feeling?
Blake Lively and the others, Reynolds and Sloan, have invoked successfully in getting this judge to saying, look, I mean, even if everything you're saying is true, okay, and that's the standard.
Like I said, America is ghetto and corrupt, and that is just a reality that we all should understand by now.
Justin Baldoni's entire case against Blake Lively was demolished in one brutal ruling. But was it legal justice or something much darker? Blake's team called in CIA-connected crisis PR. The judge blocked nearly every claim, and now both sides are bleeding in legal fees. What really happened? Did the truth die in court? Buckle up. This is not the ending anyone expected. Judge Louis J. Lyman's ruling sent shockwaves through the courtroom and beyond, with nearly every major claim from Justin Baldoni's lawsuit against Blake Lively obliterated in one swift judicial stroke. Defamation, dismissed, extortion, tossed, emotional distress, disqualified.
So the judge here says that his claims were not legally sufficient. He said he didn't meet the legal requirements for defamation, particularly failing to show that the accused parties knowingly made false statements. So the judge dismissed this one, but not the one from Blake Lively. So that's still on.
The thing the judge is saying is that this thing about stealing the movie and interfering with his contractual relationships in economic advantage, the judge said you can try and tune that up and come back to court. Otherwise, the case appears to be gutted, and his only remedies to be going on appeal, which is going to be a very long and uncertain process.
What remains is a legal skeleton, just 2 weak claims barely surviving, an alleged breach by the New York Times for publishing early, and a nebulous interference with business expectations. According to legal experts like Christopher Melcher, this wasn't just a defeat. It was a legal bloodbath. Crucially, the judge ruled that even if every single one of Baldoni's allegations were true, he still couldn't sue Lively or her associates. Why? Because under U.S. law, especially anti-SLAPP statutes and First Amendment protections, public figures and journalists have broad immunity when speaking on matters of public concern, even if their statements are damaging. In other words, the truth didn't matter. The law simply doesn't allow certain types of claims to proceed. As Melcher put it, even if everything you're saying is true, they can't sue.
That's the kind of laws that Blake Lively and the others, Reynolds and Sloan, have invoked successfully in getting this judge to saying, look, I mean, even if everything you're saying is true, okay, and that's the standard, even if everything that the Wayfarer parties said is true in their complaint, they can't sue Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Sloan for these out-of-court, allegedly defamatory statements because of these strong First Amendment protections.
The legal rationale: protected speech. The judge found that Blake Lively's public statements, the ones Baldoni says ruined his life, were shielded under the First Amendment. Since Baldoni is a public figure and the claims involved workplace misconduct, a high bar applied. He had to prove actual malice, that Lively knowingly lied or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. The judge was blunt. Baldoni couldn't meet that standard. That's why defamation, extortion, and emotional distress were tossed. But it wasn't just a loss for Baldoni. In a twist, Lively had to abandon her emotional distress claim after refusing to share her mental health records, prompting the court to strike all evidence tied to her distress.
Blake suffering a defeat where she did not want to release her mental health records, and while still trying to make a claim for severe emotional distress, and the judge said, no, you can't have it both ways. You're not going to release the records. And she dismissed her claim for severe intentional or negligent infliction of emotional distress. And the judge said, well, I'm going to exclude the evidence of emotional distress, which is a huge component of her claim.
Both narratives were gutted. What remained wasn't a win for either side, but mutually assured destruction, with only faint hopes of appeal left in the wreckage. But to some, this wasn't just a legal loss. It was a rigged system at work. In a fiery breakdown on The Candace Show, host Candace offered a blistering theory. that Baldoni didn't just lose a case, he lost to the deep state. Her claim? That the New York Times, central to Baldoni's original suit, operates as a publishing arm of the CIA, and suing them was tantamount to suing the government itself.
The New York Times is effectively the publishing arm of the CIA, which means that Justin Baldoni just tried to sue the CIA, okay? Big mistake. Nobody wins against the New York Times, okay?
Candace points to Blake Lively's decision to hire Nick Shapiro, a crisis PR expert with documented CIA ties, as more than just good optics.
That Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are moving to hire a PR crisis manager. His name was Nick Shapiro. He was formerly of the CIA. He worked for the CIA's deputy. He was the CIA's deputy chief of staff, and he worked beneath their director, John Brennan, who's implausibly corrupt. Why did they engage this firm? Be the New York Times, and they know that they're going to be protected. And so the best way to think about this case is that the Justin Baldoni hit piece originated from the CIA-protected New York Times. So on June 10th, I wasn't shocked when Judge Lehman did what always happens in these matters pertaining to the New York Times/CIA lawsuits.
It was a strategic shield backed by institutional power. This wasn't just a legal defense. It was, in her view, an intelligence operation. Judge Lyman's decision to dismiss any claims tied to the NYT only reinforced her view that Baldoni's case was never going to survive. Not because it lacked merit, but because it threatened powerful institutions. Wild or not, this theory reflects how public trust in justice is now as fractured as the lawsuit itself. Now the battlefield is scorched and silent. Legal experts like Christopher Melcher see little chance of this case ever reaching trial. Appeals may drag on for years, if they come at all. What's left is a procedural KO, not a verdict. No ruling on guilt, no clarity on truth. Baldoni never got to challenge Lively's claims in court, and though her team may claim victory, both sides walk away damaged. As Popcorn Planet's Andy put it, this is a bloodbath. But the real sting? The silence. Because if the case ends here, the truth may never see daylight.
But what's left? Because I heard you say it's 4 claims. I thought it was just the tortious interference and the breach of the covenant of good faith and fair dealing, insofar as he's alleging that Ryan Reynolds messed with his relationship with Ari Emanuel over at WME. Like if that happened and they interfered with Justin's agency relationship, you still have a claim. Where am I wrong? How is it bigger?
Well, it's bigger because there's an intentional interference with contract, which is against Blake and Ryan, that the judge gave us a roadmap to replead.
The story has hit that classic Hollywood moment where the PR shine fades, revealing something messier beneath. Mainstream outlets like CNN and People magazine framed Blake Lively's courtroom win as definitive. She won. He lost. The end. But look closer, and it's clear this was a procedural dismissal, not a verdict on truth. When Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, quickly responded, "We're amending and moving forward," the spotlight shifted again.
The judge gave us a roadmap on how to replete those and what the judge would like to see. We are doing that now and working through that. And those are significant claims. But nothing is as significant as taking her deposition.
Toward the growing list of questions, Lively's team continues to sidestep, but never fully answers. The contrast in legal tone is striking. Baldoni's team speaks with blunt certainty. "We have proof. This happened. No qualifiers." Meanwhile, Blake Lively's lawyer, Mike Gottlieb, sticks to cautious language. Alleged, claims, complaint. Even casual viewers noticed. If your side has evidence, why play it safe? That kind of phrasing isn't just passive, it's strategic. It signals legal risk. The CNN interview added to the unease, with Jake Tapper avoiding tough questions like the Taylor Swift blackmail claim. Instead of journalism, it felt like PR, leaving many to wonder, who decided the real questions shouldn't be asked? Efforts to sway public opinion backfired. Salma Hayek's public dinner with Blake raised conflict of interest questions, not sympathy. Liz Plank mocked Baldoni, then backpedaled awkwardly, despite having co-hosted a podcast with him. To many, it looked like Blake's circle closing ranks out of fear, not conviction.
How did Justin take the news, Brian? It's having practiced law. I know it's never great when you get a decision like this one. How's he feeling?
I think that injustice is a word I think I can best describe it. A lack of understanding. If she said these things about me that were untrue, how come I don't have a legal redress in terms of defamation?
But the most stunning hypocrisy might lie in how quickly everyone is willing to ignore the actual power dynamics at play. WME, the agency representing both Blake and Ryan, dropped Baldoni within 24 hours of that New York Times article. Less than a day. That doesn't happen without orchestration. Friedman claims Blake and Ryan threatened the agency to do so. And, conveniently, the article that triggered it all arrived just in time for the press tour of It Ends With Us. A movie Lively allegedly took control of behind Baldoni's back. What we're witnessing may not be a legal drama anymore. It's a PR war, weaponized through press relationships, agent loyalty, and Hollywood fear. It's about erasing someone from the industry without ever needing to go to trial. And if true, that's far more disturbing than any courtroom technicality. What's next? Baldoni's lawyer team said their new complaint will focus on contract breaches, agency interference, and misuse of power. If Lively's team tries another dismissal, it could drag on. But the reputational damage may be done. People are re-watching interviews, questioning connections, and noticing how quickly allies like Liz Plank and WME bailed. That kind of exodus hints not at inconvenience, but at something indefensible. And maybe that's what really scares them. The more this drags out, the more chances there are for things to leak, for deposition tapes to surface, for DMs to be subpoenaed, for people to start whispering on record instead of in private. Because this isn't just about one lawsuit anymore. It's about the systemic rot that lets a Hollywood elite spin a victim narrative so polished that even CNN doesn't dare challenge it. But the cracks are showing. The smirks aren't landing the way they used to. And the people who quietly watched from the sidelines, they're starting to talk. As the dust settles, attention turns to Judge Louis Lyman. Internet sleuths like Cassidy O'Connell uncovered potential conflicts. His brother is director Doug Lyman, deeply tied to Hollywood. Add rumored stock holdings in entertainment firms, and his swift dismissal of Baldoni's countersuit now looks suspect. He's faced scrutiny before, like in a Bank of America case overturned due to his wife's stock. Veteran lawyers are questioning the ruling as hasty and legally shaky. If these concerns stick, the case could reignite, this time with the judge himself under fire. Meanwhile, the court of public opinion has delivered its own blistering verdict, and it's not even close. A wide sample analysis of online commentary reveals a massive groundswell of support for Justin Baldoni, with estimates suggesting 60 to 70% of commenters siding with him. Phrases like Team Baldoni, he's the real victim, and Swifties stand with Justin flood social threads. Blake Lively, on the other hand, faces a harsh digital reckoning. Roughly half of all comments criticize her directly. She's accused of dishonesty, PR gamesmanship, and misusing the language of survivors. A few voices still plead for due process and warn against mob justice, but they're quickly drowned out. The polarized tone is fierce, fan-driven, and moralistic. What's emerging here isn't just a legal battle. It's a culture war, and Blake is losing ground fast. The courtroom's quiet, but you're not. Has Blake lost control, or has the internet picked its hero too fast? Reputations are burning. Now it's your turn. Team Baldoni or Team Lively?